Does everyone understand this question? How are we to consider Krishna our friend? Is he sometimes hidden from us? And it's a very foundational question. There's a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam which is contemplating what's the supreme occupation. And the verse is, let's do this together. Make a path. Savai pungsang paro dharmo. Savai pungsang paro dharmo means, what is the supreme dharma? What is the para dharma? Savai pungsang paro dharmo.
Yato bhaktir adhoksaji.
Yadho bhaktir adhoksaji. Total submission, total giving to the adhokshaja. The adhokshaja means the inconceivable. We can't understand who he is at all. Right? To the unknown, you could even say. Ahaituki apratihata. And his will is causeless in the sense that we don't know where it's coming from. We can't trace back, oh, this is happening because of this, because of this, because of this, because of this. Actually, in the end, it's ahaituki. And the translation of ahaituki means causeless. You can't identify a cause in the paradigm of your current mind. And ahaituki apratihata. Apratihata means you can't stop it. It's causeless and unstoppable. Yayatma supersediti. But if you can come into harmony with that in your atma, in yourself, supersediti, you will feel supreme satisfaction by giving yourself in bhakti to that unknown, causeless, unstoppable flow. Wow, what a mysterious shloka. Adhoksaja. You know, in Gita, Krishna says mysterious things. I'm everywhere, I'm nowhere. He is not in the position where we're going to capture him. He's not on call. And actually what Krishna likes is sacrifice. In chapter 5 in Gita, he says, Bhoktaram yagya tapasam. Actually, my what I consume, what my food is yagya and tapasya. I like sacrifice, Krishna says. And sacrifice has a funny quality. It cannot be sacrifice unless the result is unknown. Otherwise, it's transactional. It's business. It's math. Right? I give you this, you give me that. Sacrifice means I give, and I have no idea whether I'm even going to get anything back. But I give anyway. And Guru Maharaj says sacrifice is the essential quality of love. Because in order to love, you have to sacrifice for the beloved. Love has no meaning without sacrifice. So Krishna is always in a position where he's not grabbable by us and he's not predictable. And some wording that Guru Maharaj says when he talks about adhoksaja is very amazing. He speaks about this. There's a great chapter in this book, which this book is so fundamental, so beautiful, so hopeful. If you think about it, there's a book, Srila Goswami Maharaj, he put these together very, very nicely. There's a book called The Search for Sri Krishna. And the search for Sri Krishna means we're searching for God. But then there's this book, which is Loving Search for the Lost Servant, which means he's searching for us. That's like the most hopeful thing. This chapter is called The Environment. I recommend we read these books. They're really good. They're really good. I'm going to read this. It's on page 16.
16 and 17.
So the Guru Maharaj quotes, the nature of bhakti according to Srimad Bhagavatam. Savai pungsang paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhokshajay. Ahoituki apratihta yayatma suprasidati. Bhakti is the highest function of the soul, the paradharma. Our duty here means here, like where we are. Our duty here, the thing we're faced with, what we must contribute, the circumstance we must go through, that's our duty. Our duty here must have its origin in the plane of bhakti. We must be able to read and catch and utilize that flow. And then listen to this sentence by Srila Guru Maharaj. All these things, you read them and you feel like it's like the most beautiful writing ever, and they just poured out of his mouth real time, like just a stream of nectar. We must dance in the waves of that flow. Everyone's highest duty will be full submission to the unseen, undetectable causal power, which has no cause, no rhyme, no reason. It is automatic, eternal, and can never be opposed by any force here. And then we will find our soul's greatest satisfaction.
Jai.
We will feel real satisfaction only when we come in touch with that fundamental harmonious wave. Then we can feel the highest ecstasy. That is bhakti. 2 paragraphs from
Jai.
Srila Guru Maharaj.
Jai.
Sometimes you really feel like when you read something like that, like I really feel this all the time when I'm reading Guru Maharaj. It's like, if that was the only 2 paragraphs that I ever had to like guide my life, it's like, that's good. That's good. It's so wonderful how much beautifully succinct advice there is here. So, in the context of your question, this is what we have to understand. Krishna is our friend, but he's never going to be in this position where we own him. It's going to require sacrifice on our part. Mm-hmm. We have to offer to him in the mood of sacrifice, not in the mood of a business transaction. And this is why Saranagati helps us from one of the most insidious aspects of our ego that can enter into our spiritual life, is that we want to make everything transactional. We want to have some surety in the transaction. Okay, I'm going to give myself to you, but what am I getting? And in order to love, you can't have that mood. It has to be, I'm going to give everything to you, and I don't care what I get in return. So that means the thing has to have an unknown property. You have to give to Krishna even when he's not seen by you. If we move through Shikshastakam of Srimad Mahaprabhu, this is where it all goes. Ashli Shiva Padaratam Pinashtumam Adarshanan Marma Hatan Korotuva Yatha Tata Vavi Dadhatu Lampato Mat Prana Nathastu Seva Napara. You can embrace me, he can embrace me so close. He can also reject me. Or even the most painful, as it's said by the devotees, is that he disappears from me, adarshan. But yata tata, whatever and however that, and Mahaprabhu used a very astonishing term to refer to Krishna. Yata tata va vidadhatu lampato. Lampata means a person with like no ethics. With low ethics. Actually, all ethical systems are only serving him. He does not have to be bound by any of them. Whatever he does is absolute good. Can we give him that space? Can you give absolute good the space to move? Or is he going to like have to confine into your ideas? We have to have that mood. Maybe he will disappear from me forever. And then, mat prananatas tu sevarna. He will always be the prananata for me. He will always be the Lord of my life. I'm always going to be for him. He can embrace me, he can reject me, he can disappear from me. I will always be for him. That's the fullest expression of Saranagati. So, as the devotee moves in their life of practice, there's going to be that moment where real sacrifice is required. And that real sacrifice has to be done in the moment of uncertainty, where I was talking about uncertainty. Uncertainty means the whole thing has to become, am I going to get anything out of it? Do I have anything? And will I still give? It has to come to that, because that's the test of love. That's the actual expression of love. Guru Maharaj says, Radharani is she's sacrifice personified. And if we want to be her servant, we have to pass through this. So those moments where the Lord does not appear to us, and to continue to sacrifice to him, they're the foundation of authentic spiritual progress. And it's actually what Mahaprabhu is saying must be. There has to be some moment where there is a offering to the Adoksaja. I don't understand, I don't see, and I offer everything that I am and everything that I do to him. Because sacrifice is the thing that makes anything real. In fact, sacrifice is the only thing that makes anything tasteful in life. Even if you're watching a movie, if there's no sacrifice on the part of any character in the movie, it's just completely lame. And there's actually no one that you root for. There's nothing interesting about anyone that won't sacrifice. There's literally nothing interesting about anyone that won't sacrifice. All you are is another parasite on the world. Right? More for me. It's not interesting. And the devotees are the most interesting people. Because they're mining sacrifice. And sacrifice is always done in uncertainty and in offering without anything guaranteed in return. When there's a part, we know the Leela where Advaita Acharya started to preach Brahmavad philosophy. And Guru Maharaj talks about what Advaita Acharya Prabhu was saying. When Advaita Acharya was preaching Brahmavad, he was literally preaching against this uncertainty. Advaita Acharya is saying, Mukti is in your fist. You can actually work really hard, and you might have to work really, really hard. But if you work really, really hard, you can get Mukti. You can, remove yourself from this plane of diversity and variety and go into the peace of the one. So cute. So anyways, when Advaita Acharya Prabhu, he's like, why would you do this bhakti thing? He's like, Krishna is totally unreliable. And you're going to put your whole future in the hands of this reckless person? Why would you do bhakti? That's don't do that. Go to mukti. It's in your hand. Oh, Bobby. It's hard to go. Jai Nardamuni Prabhu ki jai. So anyways, a very amazing argument that Advaita Acharya is making. He's making an argument directly against this Adoksaja principle. He's saying, this whole thing, if you go to Krishna, it's all just it's wavy. And you're in the hands of this reckless person who's not bound by any kind of morality. He's like, why would you do that? Go to mukti. It's in your hand. Just get out of this and just relax. Be in peace. Merge in the oneness. And Mahaprabhu's hearing this. It's like becoming extremely angry. And resolving to fast.
And he starts to beat him.
Well, then later he goes to that. But finally Mahaprabhu comes and he swims across the Ganga and goes to Advaita's house. He's like, you called me here. It's like, you called me here and now you say this? Slapping him, Sita Thakurani's coming, no, you're going to kill him, he's old. And then Advaita's like, oh, wow, where's all the, oh, Baba, Dandavad, where's all that? Like, you're respecting me, you're giving me all this respect, but now you're showing the true position. You can beat me. And Advaitacharya is like in a state of ecstasy. But he's using this Mayavad philosophy and directly preaching against the giving of yourself to the unknown, to the unseeable, the uncatchable. Sometimes Krishna is described as Shama Sundara. In a very beautiful song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says, he's clothed in the yellow cloth of her sacrifice. By her sacrifice surrounding the dark Lord, then we know how he exists and what is his form. But it's only because her cloth is covering him. Otherwise, he's unknowable, completely hidden and mysterious. Krishna is unknowable without the devotees. So through the devotees, we have some idea of who he is, and through them, we can offer to him. But we have to reach that stage where we are giving in sacrifice with no guarantee. Not even the guarantee of seeing him. And of course, all of that has a background, a rooting of trust and confidence in him. But at the same time, it has to be his will, whatever it is. That is the definition of absolute good. His will is the definition of absolute good, and any other definition is material and temporary. So, ultimately, Saranagati is the path to love. Love means sacrifice, and sacrifice means uncertainty. So the devotee is learning how to be a contributing unit in uncertainty and to give completely to that which is unknown and can never be captured by us. He's always going to be free. And that's real bhakti. But then Krishna again himself says, Aham bhakta paradhino. Those who can do that, they own me. And that mystery where the Lord is owned by his devote, there's a beautiful part in sermons where Srila Guru Maharaj talks about this. The tension between the Lord being given fully to the devotee and the devotee being given fully to the Lord. The devotee's fully given to the Lord and he says, I'm yours. And they're like, no. Right? And he's like, no, I'm yours. And that tension is the Leela. That tension is the source of all energy and reality. Like Guru Maharaj says, this plane here has its root in bhakti. We were talking about the scientific viewpoint on energy. It's like, what the heck is energy? Why is everything vibrating? Guru Maharaj is saying, this verse is saying, bhakti is the source of all motion. Bhakti is the source of reality. And our duty in this plane has its root in that original flow. And Guru Maharaj is saying, you have to catch that. You have to realize it. You have to see it. Your duty here has its origin in that original plane. Because nothing doesn't have its origin in that original plane. Everything has its origin in that original plane. It is the original energy. So what does he say? We have to catch, read, catch, and utilize that flow. We have to dance in the waves of that flow. To have the faith and the courage to enter into that world of total giving, of total surrender. And it requires that the Lord may be hidden from us. And now what are you going to do? You going to still give to him? Or is it conditional? Here's what I need from you, God. You do this part, and I'll do this part. That relationship is possible, actually. You know, there is so many religious, good people who are basically saying, God, give me this. God, give me that. God, give me this. Right? And what do you need? A couple worships? Okay. What, like more? Okay. But like we want to move out of that. We want to move into the dynamic plane of love. And that requires us to deal with the unknown, the unseen, and still try to be a devotee. Okay, that's my offering on the answer to that question. Is he on?
Yes, he is.
What do you think, Nazar? I don't know how well that was translated or anything.
He's smiling.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think he's speaking English, isn't he?
I don't,
Was there another question? No. Okay, Bhiman Krishna Prabhu is saying, Nazar's question brings up the importance of Guru and the Vaishnavas.
Yep. Yep. That's the trade secret of spiritual life. The trade secret of spiritual life is that he is revealed by those that are fully devoted to him. And I like actually that definition of Shama Sundar, he who cannot be seen, the dark Lord, he's hiding in the shadows.
I'm going to try and find that
We have
song.
no ability to actually perceive him. And the affection of his devotees is revealing him. So that's the trade secret of Krishna consciousness, is to try and come into deeper and deeper consonance with the truth, which will be the words of the saints. That's all of these books are expressions of mercy from the saint's heart. And really spiritual life is, it has always in the past and will forever in the future move from one heart to another. That's the nature of how spiritual life moves from one devotional heart to another. And every person that is hearing this in the future or hearing it in the different time who are in this room, we're here because many people were kind to us. Many people assisted us on the journey. Many people took out some time and shared their heart with us and woke us up to something else over and over and over again. So then you go, that's actually continuing all the time, right? That's where these like scriptures are coming of searching for finer and finer revelations of the Lord are coming in the heart. So that's the trade secret of Krishna consciousness, is to, when we were talking about tapasya of the mind, there's deeper and deeper tapasyas of the mind, right? Where you're starting to like very much appreciate what you're coming in contact with. And then even praying like, Lord, actually, I'm kind of fine with wherever you want to put me, but at least that I can stay appreciating the people that are serving you dearly. And I'm like hoping that I keep that perspective in my vision all the time. And it will assist us through untold tornadoes, disasters, miseries, so many kinds of things. So it's very faith affirming to share the stories of the great saints that have existed, some of them more modern, some of them ancient, right? Some of these Puranic stories are very ancient, from like who knows what time period actually, right? Because they're only falling into written word way later, sometimes eons later. They're coming even from possibly other timelines, but they're so valuable that we're sharing those stories, right? So he said, right, Guru Maharaj's own words, the saints are standing like pillars of faith, affirming that yes, this is real and this is possible. And he goes, just by hearing the stories of Prahlad, of Dhruva, that we will also feel our own faith is enhanced. So that's that we may serve these stories, and in modern life, right? We serve the people that are around us. They're very unusual people that are trying to cherish an unusual ideal on an unusual quest. So that's the secret. That he is hiding in his devotee's heart.
Okay. Ultimately, Saranagati leads to sacrifice. Saranagati is sacrifice. I am for him, everything is for him. No other purpose in life than that. And the opportunities for sacrifice, when we have a material consciousness and something is not transactional, it appears very difficult. But actually, when you start to have some devotional progression, that burn of sacrifice becomes the point. It becomes the most tasteful thing. It's like you're searching for that. Gurudev gave the example of a athlete, like a weightlifter. It's like when you're lifting weights and you don't feel the burn, meaning you don't feel the sacrifice, then you feel like it's like pointless. Like there's no point in lifting, there's no point in exercising unless you feel the burn. And the whole point of the service life is to feel the sacrifice. The sacrifice is, what does Guru Maharaj say? There's a part he talks about, that sacrifice is joyful. Sacrifice is joyful. To reset. Because sacrifice, to the materialistic ego, it sounds horrible. Sounds like, the idea that you're going to give something and not get anything in return. It sounds like irrational. Like, why would you do that? But, love means that. The minute you're calculating in love, you're not actually in love. Like, that's why we say, relationships in this material world, they're often calculating. And you can see that from the time, like, when you're a teenager and you have these little, like, oh, I like you. Do you like me? I like you. And then it's kind of like, but are you the best I can do? Because I could probably do a little bit better than you. Maybe I should go look somewhere else. You know what I mean? You're immediately, it's like, it's not love. There's some like, are you enjoying with me more than I'm enjoying with you? Because that's not fair. And it's like, there's all this junk. That's all just like, can we perfectly exploit each other exactly the right way? And that is not how you can approach God. You can't approach God like that at all, ever. Not one tinge of that. The sacrifice is like the cure for that entire calculating thing that we sometimes in this world call love. It's not love. Right? That perfect conscious land has to be devoid of that. Absolutely none, not one drop, not one moment of that.
A little comment from Nazar in between. He's saying, this is what I got from the answer. Desire to see Krishna personally is another type of visual exploitation, not serving.
It's a nice statement. It's the, you can say the unusual wealth of the followers of Mahaprabhu, that they're not even asking for that. Only I want your service, life after life. That's the expression of Mahaprabhu. Ashla Shiva Padaratambrana. It's like the whole thing is leading up to that. All the Shikshastakam is leading up to that. He can do with me as he pleases. And it's that much trust, that much confidence in absolute good. If he embraces me, if he rejects me, if he disappears from me, that's all good. That's all the expression of absolute good. And that kind of devotee is who we all want to be around. Right? That's devotion that's devoid of bhakti, that's devoid of mukti. There's no tinge of ever deviating from full dedication, whether I receive something or not in bhakti, and trying to get away from any type of, like feeling that I don't want. I'm going forward into it in dedication no matter what. And you can say, the devotees who have that within them, they're like, Guru Maharaj says, they're like lighthouses. They're like pillars in the ocean of faith. As you see someone, you hear that ideal, and you're like, oh. And then you see someone who has that, and you're like, wow. Right? They're like the demonstration, the shining like possibility that is something that exists, right? And it's wonderful. Advaitacharya really nailed it too. Like, why would you do that? Krishna? Seriously? You're just going to trust Krishna, huh?
And what's nice about that meditation is now you have no restriction on the circumstance. Because anything that can happen is now accommodated. That's what you're searching for. If you're searching for an ideal, the ideal has to be able to withstand everything. The darkest betrayal, the worst dark night, the deepest valley, the false summit, the round cul-de-sac, all of the length and breadth of what can happen wherever we find ourselves in this Brahmanda, right? Or even beyond, who knows, right? Wherever we find ourselves, there is a motion forward without any restriction. That's really what we are searching for, not the spiritual life that can be only practiced at a certain time of day, or if you're a certain kind of like race or background or any of these kinds of like external movements. And you're right, that type of prayer can be made anywhere, in any type of circumstance. And now I have a way to actually process my life, because now I'm not the center of everything with my like mania of control on it. There is an actual offering, and then anything and everything can be taken in as like, okay, I now have this to witness. I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to proceed. And there's like a prayerful navigation system that can accommodate everything. That's really, you want something that can accommodate everything, right? Wherever I am, that there is some type of motion, that the Lord is inside of that circumstance, that there is some type of possibility, and there's a tremendous wealth of affection and trust underneath everything, right? That's what we're talking. Otherwise, how can all of the words of Guru Maharaj become completely cohesive actually with that? Then you're going, oh, there's a meta system he's communicating. Otherwise, why can you say every wave is a wave of grace? These kinds of sentences. Well, it's like there's a world he's trying to communicate to us, right? And it's not like, some falsely optimistic world where you're saying it's grace, but you secretly think it's a betrayal. But actually that there's some kind of full new navigation system where you're going, oh, this is coming to me by grace, right? And then if I can't understand that it's grace, that's okay. I won't pretend. We're not going to falsely pretend. We're going to let it wash over us and trust. I don't see that it's your grace, but underneath there's your grace in this circumstance. And I want to pray to be able to perceive that and let this wash over me. Right? Never in any kind of inauthentic kind of way. If we're struggling with something, he also knows that we're struggling with something. There's no need to front that it's not a struggle and it's okay. And you're going, oh, okay, what's broad enough that can be applied at all times, in all circumstances, in all places? That's the glorious and hopeful, wonderful news. And then people that are connoisseurs of that, somehow or other, they feel that kindness in their heart to share that with others, which is a real miracle because they don't have to do that with their time, right? They just go and they want to share that with others, which is so exciting. And then it's one of the positive movements. Someone who becomes an expert in sacrifice, not only is it amazing and enhances our faith, but it's so emboldening that we also get a little activated. And it makes it a little easier to practice your spiritual life, actually, if you can have good association, right? Because now that thing that seemed to almost beyond us, really, you get almost excited. You're oh my gosh, could I try, to be with you guys, do this thing? This is kind of fun. And then you're kind of turning over into this other world, not of just oh, I'm scared, I don't want to sacrifice all these things. You're going oh my gosh, this is actually amazing and worthwhile. So again, the trade secret of spiritual life is you find someone that's hungry for it. And it was asked to Srila Guru Maharaj on his Vyasa Puja day. They said, okay, you're saying that the prerequisite, you can't become qualified for this thing. The main thing you need to have is some desire for it. So how can I become more desirous of this thing? That was asked to Guru Maharaj on his Vyasa Puja day. And Guru Maharaj's own answer, he goes, how can we become hungry for Krishna consciousness? That was the question. And he goes, by being in the association of hungry men, right? And everyone really erupted in joyous laughter. So then you're going, okay, that's one of these kind of appropriate prayers we can say, right? There's this prayer to the environment, accept me and connect me. There's this emphasis on learning how to contribute and give to the environment. Maybe we will give to someone that is actually somehow or other gifting us something far more than what we gifted them. Some softness with the environment. And then there is being in the association of people who have found sacrifice to be wonderful and who are living their lives that way, which the inverse of that is we think, oh, there's no one that could live their life of sacrifice. It's all a sham. They're all trying to trick you and get stuff from you. And the answer to that is absolutely not. There really actually are saints. There are people who are living lives of sacrifice. And that's what our journey is to find those people. And then they say, actually, that is the result when Sukriti hits critical mass, as Goswami Maharaj likes to say, right? So that means when your good fortune gets so heavy that it moves you, where will it move you? It will move you into the association of auspicious, saintly, and wonderful association. So that's what happens as your spiritual life is taking on some gravity.
Hare Krishna. And, I don't want to go to such a high place, but it's important for us to understand that when Mahaprabhu came here, I don't want to even say understand because that's the wrong word because we can't understand. But when Mahaprabhu came here, what he actually, he's Krishna himself. He's tasting some very fine substance of Sri Radha. And that fine substance is Vipralambha. That's the thing that is capturing him. And that Vipralambha means her intense, burning necessity of missing him that's pulling him into her heart. You know, and in our mat, we have these mysterious, like, temple of union in separation. What does that mean? This means something in the line of Mahaprabhu. It means that the necessity of Sri Radha in the absence of Krishna is so intense that it's actually pulling him, the supreme infinite absolute, into her heart. And that is union with him in her separation. And that Krishna who appears in the heart of Sri Radha in her intensity of separation is the most Krishna Krishna that there is. So this goes to a very high place. His play is always in union and separation. It's always requiring sacrifice and is always drawing out some wonderful substance from within the heart of the devotee in that play of union and separation. Remember, I was saying, his pastimes are all union and separation.
Wow.
All. When we're entering into Leela with Krishna, we're entering into a land, a world of sacrifice, and a world of the most intense, fulfilling feeling that there is in consciousness. So in our small way, we have to embrace that. We have to be willing to give ourselves with nothing in return. We have to enter into the land of love. So the love's not lacking from his side. We're the ones who don't know how to love. We're the ones who have a transactional relationship with everything, right? A mercenary, you might even say, relationship. I'm not going to do anything for you until you pay me, you know what I mean? Not like that ever. So these situations where sacrifice is required of us, that's like a great gift. It's a great boon. It's a thing that's actually adding substance and validity to our spiritual practice.
Jai.
And he asked, what is the highest goal for life? He mentioned the list of performing our duty, offering our fruit of action, like that. Until he said to love for the love of Radha Krishna.
The conversation of Ramananda Samvad is leading to it kind of starts with Gyane Prayasamudapasyanamanta Eva, where Mahaprabhu accepts, okay, this is the starting point. And then it moves into all the different levels of rasa. I mean, you know this conversation. And then it's ending up in the exchange of love between the Supreme Devotee and the Supreme Lord. And ultimately, Ramananda, at the end of the conversation, he's saying, and you are someone, he's pointing to Mahaprabhu, you actually are a great mystery. And then the conversation, like Mahaprabhu smiles and looks away. It's like this really beautiful ending of the conversation where Ramananda's like, and I know something about you. And then Mahaprabhu's like, we very carefully sort of place that Radha Krishna Leela in a very high altar above our heads. Saraswati Thakur said, Mattala Harijana Kirtana Range Pujala Ragapata Gauravavange. We're doing Hari Kirtan together, and we're doing Seva. And we're keeping above our head that Ragapata, that pure, spontaneous, loving pastimes. We're worshiping that plane. So that one day we may be called within that. But not in such a way that we want to enter of our own accord. When our heart is purified, when we have some authentic bhakti, then we will be called to that. And that is the natural way. No imposition, no taking the chance that our material mind will try to contemplate that highest spiritual play, So, in our path, we keep that in a high place. We worship that high place. And we don't try to dive into all those exchanges of rasas. They're there. It is actually the spiritual truth. But for us, we want that to come naturally to us. It will come when we're ready. Not that we will go there when we're not ready. So there's a natural pulling that will happen, right? Where the seva comes. Guru Maharaj said that is the safe way. When the seva comes, then it's safe, right? The relationship will come, the seva will come, the utilization of us will come to us very naturally. We don't have to try to enter there. And when you go to Vrindavan Dham, there's, Dhameshwar Shiva, right? In the outskirts of the spiritual world, as described in Srimad Bhagavatam, there's the plane of material perception, then there's Nirvana, Brahman. Then on the outskirts of Vaikuntha is Shiva Loka. And Shiva Loka, Lord Shiva will protect the Dham from anyone who has any type of material or mukti consciousness. Any type of bhukti or mukti consciousness, Lord Shiva will keep out. So if you have that type of consciousness and you're trying to penetrate into Vrindavan Dham Lila, it will be false. So the advice of our teachers is, let that come to you very naturally, and don't try to, for lack of a better term, we will never try to colonize that place. We'll never try to take that place over and make it a place where we enter without being invited. So, I could say that, in that conversation, they're discussing some higher things, but it's enough for us to know that that is the highest thing, and that we will worship that, right? And then whatever may come very naturally by the grace of our Guru and by Mahaprabhu's grace. Actually, it's said that by the grace of Mahaprabhu, you can have entrance there. But we'll let that come to us, not that we go and try to get that. Is that okay?
So you articulated that in a really nice way. I'll try to reflect it to you for everyone else. Her question is, from the example yesterday, when there's an expert in something, the refinement of an expert is to very carefully look at your flaws and adjust yourself. How to adjust your flaws without becoming depressive, maybe that's a good word, right? Self-flagellating, I think is what you said. Or getting so disheartened that you'll give up completely, right? Which is like leaving. And I think it's a great question, because in that verse, Tatenu Kampam Shusha Miksha Mano, Shusha Miksha, Shu is Susha Miksha. Susha Miksha. Su means auspicious. Auspicious self-examination. It's a really important emphasis on there. And in fact, I always found it kind of shocking in Bhagavad Gita, where it's saying being like depressive is in the mode of ignorance. And you're like, especially because like in the current culture that we're in, like certain qualities are like kind of communally agreed upon as like not good qualities, and anger is probably the first one. Like for the most part, like Western countries imprison people that are doing violent crimes. But if you think about it, there's crimes that are quite terrible, that are subtle, that can happen, that are not necessarily like punished in the external world, right? Like you can ruin so many people's lives and maybe you don't even go to jail or anything like that. But we hone in on anger in the external worlds, right? And then in the scripture in Bhagavad Gita, it's saying like, you know, being in the mode of depression is in the mode of it. And you're like, really? It almost seems like depression is something that like falls on you outside of yourself. You know, like you're not participating in it.
It's like a disease.
It's like a disease. Like it just came from somewhere else. It landed on you. It's really heavy. But like the anger is the thing that you're feeding, and you shouldn't be feeding anger. So I was like personally kind of struggling with that a little bit, where I was like thinking like, well, that is quite peculiar. It feels so strange to categorize that in such a category. Like, right? Because mode of ignorance means like you're suffering in it now, and there's more suffering on the menu in the future. Right? That's right. Mode of passion is like mode of goodness is it's difficult now. And that sacrifice will elevate you, right? So that there's something wonderful that comes out of something difficult. But mode of passion is it's fun now, and there's a little payment in the future. So you could say like mode of passion is like a credit card, and the interest comes, and you're like, ooh, it's a little more expensive than I thought it was going to be, right? Mode of goodness is I do this difficult thing now, and something wonderful comes from it. Mode of ignorance is it actually is untasteful as we eat it, causes indigestion, and you feel horrible afterward, right? So these are like the modes that we're kind of like flying within. So why is depression and these kinds of things like really not the recommended path? And then at the same time, it almost feels in conflict. I'm supposed to work and edit myself. So this word susamiksha is very nice. When there's an auspicious, honest kind of assimilation of what's going on is very different. And think about it. Now we have to apply this layer of bhukti and mukti to our own internal examination, okay? So mukti is when I'll never be able to get rid of this quality, so I give up. I'm never going to be able to do it. It's just too much, which maybe there's a version of truth in there. But like I was saying, when we're careful with our mind, do you know that you'll never be able to give it up? Do you really, actually, concretely know you'll never be able to give this up? So then if it's not 100% true, you can say inside of your own mind, that's a lie. And then we can soften ourselves a little bit. It's really hard for me to give this up, right? So now we start to realize the pattern of our own mind. We're swinging into like, and what's mania, right? Like if you fully go into a manic episode where you like depart reality completely, mania means I can do everything all the time and it's all like right in my hands, right? So like now we see in our mind, like sometimes when people first join a spiritual group, it's like all I gotta do is like chant and like do service. I'm gonna do service all the time. It's like super, super fun. It's like, you know, and they're like, you know, and then they're looking at everyone else like, you guys are barely even busy, you know, and like, you know, it's just like, I'm gonna clean and like my way to the Lord, you know, and they're like really, and it's really kind of nice actually because it's so enthusiastic. But then inevitably, right, when we swing like one way, then it's just like this, like, and I'm actually never going to be able to give it up, and I give up, and I'm exhausted, and you know, like I'm checking out. Like this is all too much for me. So, but this is what's happening inside of our mind, right? It's not someone else. It's not like, you know, mukti is someone in saffron, you know, in like, you know, Varanasi. India, in Varanasi, and mukti is like some Wall Street trader that's, you know, bhukti's like that. It's in us, and it's infiltrated even to the way we do our spiritual life, and even to the way we try to make progress. So now when we're looking at ourselves, we can go, okay, I do need to make some adjustment, and I'm not going to give up. Would the Lord want me to give up? Is he encouraging? Are all of the saintly advices that are coming to me encouraging me and saying, you actually what you are, if you have some realization of who you are very wonderful. Right? The soul is a unit of giving, a unit of feeling, and a unit of contribution. And not only that, you have some special contribution to the universe that's completely different than anyone else. That's like this gift of individuality, right? So it's very hopeful. So the faithful world is encouraging us not to give up. Why are we allowing that to dominate us as we're inspecting ourselves? And then think about, it's almost like it's like a trouble, you could say, where instead of adjusting, we give up. Right? So this careful, and that's one of the reasons why humility is like this mysteriously wonderful quality. We have to get humble enough to get low enough to make the smallest of change, where we can actually make a change. We may not be able to do like a huge multi-revolution of every single habit, and then what are we gonna do, right? You know, it's like, okay, I wanted to change every single thing inside of me. Well, I can't do that. Boom, I'll just give up, right? And so then you're going, okay, what is being advocated, right? And actually, like Guru Maharaj's own words, he says, modest and natural growth. Those are his words that he's saying. It's like, you know, like not manic, more than you can do. Like you're not you're not mething away to try and get things done, right? Like, but we have to think of these things. So then it's going, okay, I have to go as low as I can. And it's funny because if we try to sit with a little bit of that interior, that we even know what that next progress might be. If we are paying a little attention, right? And that I love very much that sentence. If there's a calling, there's a caller. We have some calling. And we're resisting it like artfully. And if we slow down and it's going like, okay, what's the smallest motion that I could do towards that thing? And carefully watering that thing inside of our interior. Very quietly, you know, that we kind of go, oh, and then we feel some change in our life. And then you're going, oh, great, because we want to feel actual progress in our lives. Right? And then when we share something, it's coming from some experience that has some truth inside of it. Because we want our words to become more and more true, right? That the things that we express are deeper and deeper truth. And so then you're going, okay, and then this idea that a connoisseur is saying, I can adjust myself. And then we start to take it in the smallest way we can. I want to try and adjust myself. And we let that wash over our consciousness, right? Just like when we read Gita. You read godly and ungodly qualities. And the godly qualities are really a couple verses, and the ungodly qualities are the rest of the chapter, and they're all very relatable. Right? And so it's like, oh, you know, and like all these beautiful qualities. And then you kind of crash out a little bit because you're like, ooh, the bar is very high. I mean, right at the beginning of Bhagavad Gita goes, oh, for one person who leaves their body and goes into another body, they're not disturbed. Such a wise man's not disturbed. And then you're going, oh, well, I'm not very wise. Okay, cool. That's where I'm starting from. I'm not very wise. Then you read the godly qualities, like, well, I'm not very godly, right? And then you go, okay, well, that's where, but why would I continue reading this scripture and over again? Oh, because this ideal's washing over my consciousness. And slowly some refinement is happening where I even think that's a wonderful thing. And then maybe I can actually imbibe just some smallest level of what that thing is. And then you're going, oh, okay. And then I see in myself, oh, there's some opportunity for me by the grace of the environment. That's the thing, is Krishna's so patient with us. He's so kind, carefully providing for us over and over that lesson until we can finally actually digest it, right? And then when we learn that lesson, it will never happen again. That thing won't be a problem for us anymore. Yeah. It doesn't matter what the problem was. When we finally learn that lesson, but you think, oh my gosh, if it took me 20 years, which ultimately is a blip in infinity, but maybe it was 20 years where we crashed out on that one lesson, and then it doesn't happen, and you meet someone else and they're crashing out on that lesson, you're like, let me tell you, like a little something, like there's a you on the other side of this lesson that you're gonna like. You're going to like that person that goes through that thing. So Suso Miksha means I'm not going to give up, and I'm going to go to the smallest amount of change. I'm not going to like rip open the can of every single possible shadow that I've ever even contemplated about myself. Because the saints are actually very hopeful. The message is hopeful, right? That's why that word gospel, I always find it an interesting word. It means the saints are coming to share with us, what does it mean? The good news. So then that means that this is the good news. And the good news is, if we entrenched ourselves, then we also have to do with our own resurrection. That's good news. Right? We're not just like flailing around here and nothing can work and we have no relationship with reality and we can't rectify anything. It means you have some part to play in your own healing. And that's actually in self-esteem is a really interesting thing when it comes to like, self-flagellating and stuff. They said you can compliment people all the time. Like, oh my gosh, you did such a good job. But it doesn't build self-esteem necessarily. I'm not advocating saying the inverse to people, just in case that's not clear. But it doesn't land. But when you do something that has some sacrifice in it, you build something in yourself. Now that child did something difficult, and they know it. Whether you compliment them or not has actually become secondary because they've found something inside of themselves. And then when you say, hey, I saw what you did. That was amazing. All of a sudden that kid has like a very different world of self-esteem. We're also a little bit like that. We take on, we do some sacrifice. You don't need verification from everybody else. You have some feeling like I did a hard thing and I'm feeling some transformation in my life. And you know what? If I even revealed how small and pathetic that small thing was, I would be humiliated to say that. But I'm feeling some change in my own life, and that's exciting for me. So I hope that's helpful in this idea of self-inspection.
When Guru Maharaj talks about Saranagati, he's saying what's wonderful is the entire environment wants to help you on your journey. So if we can become truly surrendered, truly good at this process, the progress you're going to make is so rapid because everything wants to help you leave these things behind and to bring out your golden self. And this process of maybe we have something within ourselves highlighted a little bit and, addressing it and taking it cleanly and passing through that circumstance and leaving these things behind, like whatever type of habit that gets highlighted. When we have a little friction with the environment, what that's doing is it's highlighting the issue we have that we may not have known about, right? So it's highlighting the issue. It's just like, if you could take a jog around the park or whatever, you're kind of like, yeah, I'm pretty good at running. It's like, okay, now try and run a 10-second 100-meter dash. You're like, oh, shit. You're like, oh, darn it, I don't know how to run. You know what I mean? And so it's like, when you take this high ideal, you're going to things are going to come out where it's like, okay, you have things to do, but the Lord is there to help. And we pass through that circumstance and those things get left behind so quickly, so rapidly, so hopefully. And the devotees become amazing people. Every devotee is amazing, really, so rare and beautiful in the world. There's an interesting thing that companies struggle with hiring. Maybe some of you guys are aware of this or not. If anyone's in corporate Neroy, you know what I'm talking. There's a study is by two professors. Their names were Dunning and Kruger. So it's called the Dunning-Kruger effect, and it basically means that the person who's the best for the job, they become the person who questions themselves and who understands that nothing is super straightforward and that, becoming excellent is a process that is uncertain. So these people in interviews, they're not bombastic, they don't come across confident, and they actually are full of the the humility that's required to actually do a good job. And those people are actually the best people to hire, and those are the people that do the worst in interviews. Right? And so that's like this conundrum, where the people who are self-doubting and have this humility and have actually addressed problems and have dealt with uncertainty, they speak with things in a mood of uncertainty and some humility and self-criticism. And those are the people you really want to be around and to have on your team. But the interview process is rewarding people who just go, yeah, and then I did this, and I kicked butt on that, and I did and I'm the best. But that is the reality, is the people who are actually doing it are like these humble people who can examine these things within themselves and operate within uncertainty and understand that there's some very wonderful, mature thing that needs to happen in order to actually execute on something or to actually make progression. So, you kind of, devotees are like that, right? You speak to a devotee and they're like, yeah, I've got these issues and that issues. And you're around them for a little while and you're like the coolest person in the world. Right? And that's the nature of coming into contact with the infinite. Sir Isaac Newton, he came up with some great laws that really help us to understand the physical world. And honestly, when he was young, he was absolutely brilliant. He's a polymath. He just could perform any type of academic endeavor better than anyone around him. And from the biographies of him, he was an absolutely insufferable jerk to be around. And he basically had contempt for everyone around him and thought a lot of himself. And not without reason. But what was interesting is that as he started to contemplate these major laws within the universe, he came to that realization of humility, which is, I don't know anything. So he's coming up with here's some basic principles. But the problem is that when you come up with these basic principles, you start to realize but I don't know how that works, and that works, and that works. And I have no idea what this thing is. And so then he finally got the recognition and adulation and, everyone's going, wow, you are awesome, actually. You did it. And he's he, through that journey, got humility. And his response was, I've discovered a grain of sand on the banks of an infinite ocean. So that's the nature of the path, right? That's the nature of actual progression in life. And, it's somewhat nice to feel that, and it's really nice to be around people who are on that journey. The greatest people, and at the same time, the most humble. Hare Krishna.